KMR shop, and I'm doing a little bit of maintenance to my Formula Drift MX5. This is a pretty unique car. We built it a couple years ago. It's actually done very well for us and the team, although we never really got the results we wanted to in Formula Drift. I mean, we did beat Frederick Osbo, we had some great battles with some of the top competitors. I feel like this car, unfortunately, never truly got to shine the way it's capable of. There's really only two builds like this that I know of in the world, one being Mad Mike's 4-rotor, and one being this particular MX5 that we built here in the US, which is a 3-rotor. Both share a lot of similar characteristics, and a lot of people say that one copied the other or something like that, but we actually built these cars not knowing each other was doing it, basically at the exact same time. It's pretty cool, so I'll give some details. It is a 3-rotor. It's basically my traditional KMR Formula Drift setup. So it's a large street port with a nitrous fogger system, and it's running about 950 to just over 1,000 horsepower depending on the dyno, which basically puts this motor well over 1,000 at the flywheel. As you can see, we are running a precision turbo. It's a fantastic turbo, very efficient. And you can see we run the triple wastegate setup. I actually get a lot of questions about this, and I apologize for the plumbing. At the last event, we had a couple lines that got twisted, so we ended up using some backup stuff. Generally, it's a little cleaner. But I want to talk about the wastegate setup. So our two wastegates right here are your traditional wastegates that are ran down into the manifold pre-turbo. With rotaries, it's very important that you get your wastegates plumbed into the correct spot. If they are not angled right, if the tubing size is incorrect, if there's any type of flow restriction to the wastegate, you're probably going to have turbo spikes. You do not want boost spikes, you don't want your turbo spiking, that's not good. So make sure, especially in rotaries, and I mean this is good advice for any car, that the plumbing down to the manifold is properly done. This particular setup is blended in and angled. The manifold was done by Nameless up in, I think they're up in Washington or Oregon, and it is a full recirculating anti-lag system. So that is our recirc valve right there, giving us an actual fourth wastegate on this car. It's a fantastic setup. We ran the anti-lag through the Haltech with the nitrous fogger, with approximately 28 to 33 pounds of boost, depending on the day. And I mean, this was probably one of the funnest cars I've ever driven. Now, we've got this extra wastegate up here that a lot of people ask about. And what we're doing with that wastegate is we're actually controlling some of our back pressure and exactly what our exhaust flow is doing. And if you think about the rotary as a two-stroke or any motor and how it operates with or without back pressure, being able to tune your back pressure would be an amazing thing. So this wastegate is actually attached to our downpipe, and we are actually regulating what it's doing via boost pressure, just like you would any type of dump gate or wastegate. And then that's actually then programmed into the computer. So we actually know and calculate when that can open, will open, and it's actually aiding in the tunability and performance of this unique setup. A lot of questions about that have arisen. Why do you have 3 wastegates up there, or why does this car have 4 wastegates? And I think one fan even asked in one of my previous videos about the RX-8 wastegate setup. So I wanted to shed some light into what we're doing, and I've actually noticed that there are a couple other professional teams out there that are now doing the same thing. In the front end here, we've got a massive Sperco intercooler that's right up front, and although it's dirty because I did some off-roading recently, my bad, that's actually the power steering cooler down there on the front end. We've got twin fans, they're Mishimoto fans with a little bit of an aluminum ducting, and there's actually 2 oil coolers in here. Both are double pass. Rotaries, especially rotaries, have a lot of oil temperature being built. So although you do need a massive radiator on any rotary or any race car, we've come to realize that especially with high horsepower rotary setups, to actually dissipate the heat from the motor, you need to dissipate that oil temperature as well, because the rotors are oil cooled in a rotary. So you could be having water temperature issues, but it might actually be because you're sustaining high oil temperatures coming out of those rotors. So with this setup, we found success by doing actually a stacked setup up front versus the traditional and drifting kind of V-mount setup. So although our intercooler air is passing through our oil coolers, we are getting the proper amount of cooling, and this was actually a very efficient setup, running 2 double pass oil coolers with -10 lines. This is a dry sumped motor. Rotary dry sumps are kind of unique. Again, I apologize for all the mess, but you can see down in there, we've actually got the Mazda Speed Factory dry sump. It's a great setup. It makes everything internal. So I think a lot of people look for an external dry sump setup on rotaries, and some people do utilize them. But if you can get your hands on one, the factory dry sumps are very compact, very efficient, and work phenomenally well. Definitely some fun stuff. And I just had a couple minutes here at the shop. I wanted to answer some questions that people have been asking, wastegate setups, dry sump setups. If anybody has questions, even if my car's a little dirty, I'd be happy to try to answer some of those cool tech questions about what we're doing and how we accomplish high boost, high horsepower rotary motors that, in this case, this motor's 3 years old. It's been rebuilt once, and before that, it got rebuilt quite a few times in testing. But since our final Formula Drift season and from here on out, it's actually been the same motor, solid compression, no issues. As long as you keep them cool and you don't detonate them, rotaries actually last a long time, even under race conditions. That's some KMR tips. Make sure to follow, make sure to say hi, ask those questions, and we'll do more of these videos.